Good evening, and welcome to the program Talk with Tashi, a program dedicated to young people, adolescents, and adults, discussing your issues and solutions with Tashi. And now, here is your host, Tashi.
Welcome back to the Unusual Grace channel, and we have another exciting talk to have with you. It is always such a pleasure to see you. This young woman, pastor, she was with us some time ago, and she is back to discuss a very important topic. But let me introduce her to you again, and I am presenting to you Mrs. Tania Case. And according to her bio, she is in ministry with her husband, Irrational Case, and they both spearhead the Be One Flesh ministry, geared at empowering single and married persons toward flourishing and fulfilling marriages. The couple has enjoyed marriage for over 23 years, and they have 3 world changers, Justice, Noah, and Chloe. Mrs. Case authored the soul healing book Wife Material, along with Wife Material Workbook. Her most recent work is What Makes Marriage Work and the Expectations Journal. She is an ordained minister and a journalist with over a decade and a half of hosting a Christian television program. She has a passion for seeing singles made whole and properly prepared for marriage and life, as well as empowering couples to have flourishing marriages. Counseling is another way in which she serves the kingdom of God, and her flagship program, Wife Material Mentorship, graduates 2 to 3 cohorts of ladies per year. These ladies undergo an intense 12-week process of unpacking the past and renewing their minds, as well as practical lessons in building kingdom marriages. You cannot afford to miss this talk, and I want you to call everybody that you know and tell them that it is time for another talk with Tashi. Stay tuned. All right, welcome, Tania. Welcome back. It is always good to chat with you.
Excellent. It's great to be here. It's great to be here. We have some interesting topics.
Oh, yes. And we're going to get into it. So today we are talking about why am I still single?
So you asked the question, so be ready for the answer.
Why am I still single?
Watching.
Ah, yes. And in our churches, in many of our local churches, we see that there are men and women who are single, but we usually have more single women than we do men. And we have more women in general than we do men. So while women tend to, it is more acceptable for a woman to say, oh, I can't find a man. They're just too limited. I'm not seeing any in my local church. Where can I go and find them? What's going on here? When a man says, I can't find a woman, it seems strange.
He seems suspicious.
So what are we doing wrong? What's going on? But we're gonna focus. Well, why am I single? I'm not even too sure. I need to let the audience know that I'm not sure what direction this is going to go, because we haven't fleshed it out before in any detail. So my viewers, I am going to be as surprised as you as we go through this conversation, right? So I don't know if it is mainly going to be towards the women, since you work with the women in your mentorship program and so on, and you would be privy to some of the reasons why women are staying single for longer in our day and age, or if it will be tilted towards the men in some point. But let's have at it. We want to hear the reasons, probably 7 reasons, starting with number 7.
I would like to do that, but it would not be in order of magnitude. Because here's what I thought of, because this is something that we deal with in Wife Material Mentorship. So I take it from the perspective of 4 reasons on the moral, well, we would say 4 headings. social reason why we're not married, spiritual, personal, and moral, right? And each one, we could spend a week on each one because there's so much. There is so much, Tashi. So let's start with the spiritual.
All right. So we have 4 categories. I have to take my notes. So we have 4 categories. There is the social, the spiritual, and we have
the moral and the personal.
Moral and personal. So there are 4 categories of reasons why women are staying single for longer. And we're beginning with the spiritual. Let's have at it.
Yes, let's start with the spiritual because I think it all started there. Let's start all the way back to Genesis, where God, the marriage maker, made marriage, right? And he put together this couple and gave them dominion over the earth. So if we know that this is God's idea, marriage is God's idea, we know we have an enemy, and the enemy does not want this to happen. Why? Because through marriage, the earth is blessed. The woman and the man and the woman were given dominion, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it. This is the marching order I like to call the 4-pronged mandate that God gave them and has still given us, no matter how much things have changed. This is what we're called to. We're to be fruitful. So the enemy is going to target marriage and try to keep us from being married. So on a spiritual level, we are in a war. We're in a war because the enemy realized that, Tashi, with that gentleman, there's a purpose activation that happens. Not that you're not doing purpose, but 1 chases 1,000 while 2 put 10,000 to flight. The dominion mandate was not given to Adam. It was given to the couple. Right? So if you know they're going to crush your head, if you know that they're going to be a problem to you, stop them from being together. Right? So we already know that once they're together, where there's unity, the Lord commands a blessing. Okay? So we have that to war with. Still in the spiritual category, we have to contend with the fact that we have generational junk carrying around us. If we check in our family, what are the patterns as it concerns marriage? Do you see a lot of persons getting married? Are you realizing that there's marriage and then it's dissolved, and then there are some seeds that could have been sown that you are now unfortunately reaping the harvest of? These are things you have to talk to God about and ask him, show me the mysteries of my life, because there are some things that are speaking from our lives and we're totally oblivious of them. So just those 2 on a spiritual level. I'm not going to go any further with the spiritual level because it might be a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So 1 more. Okay. So I changed my mind. 1 more reason. 1 more reason. Here's the reason. Persons are not, and this is a little deep, yes, but persons are not getting married, let's say women, because spiritually you are married.
Okay. Wow.
No, you have something called a spiritual spouse. And this thing has latched itself to you and gives the impression that you already are married. When I encountered this, we were having a wife material, not heard of it before, but it's out there somewhere. Now, we were having wife material graduation, and we reached the point where I anoint each person and release them into marriage and declare marriage over their lives. And as I went to anoint this young lady, we had a little spiritual encounter because a voice spoke up out of her and said, "No, she cannot be married. She's mine. And then I'm like, So of course we had to go into deliverance, and deal with that. But how did these doors get open to that? Pornography, masturbation. We open doors, and there are spiritual entities that want to take advantage and mess people up and just fight against anti-marriage spirits that fight against women being married. Men too, of course. So that's the spiritual side of it. I know that was a lot.
Oh, yes, it was.
But
okay. So for the spiritual, we're looking at the fact that we're in a warfare. So there is already opposition in the realm of the spirit, because the enemy is doing everything that he can to fight against what God has instituted, because marriage is an institution that God created. And we know the benefits of marriage to a society.
Yes.
On a large scale, and the benefits of marriage on a small scale as it relates to raising children and just the fulfillment of, you know, the life of the individuals that are involved. And then you spoke about the generational junk. What are some of the patterns that's going on in your family? What do marriages look like in your family? Are there any marriages at all?
Exactly.
And then you have now the whole matter of the spiritual spouse, where somewhere along the line, doors were opened, and you gave that example of having an encounter with an individual, a young lady who needed to be delivered because of what was going on when the time for an anointing came up. All right, so that's the spiritual. And which category are we going to next?
Let's go to ding, 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 social.
All right.
Let's go to social.
Let's do the social.
It's kind of going to touch the spiritual in a
little way.
Yeah. So socially, years back, it was understood you reach a certain age, you know, they're looking to put you in, you know, to get you married. They're looking for that guy, the perfect suitor for you. But alas, life is not like that anymore. Because firstly, we have different concepts. Social media has impacted the way we think about marriage, and marriage is not as looked forward to as it once was. There are so many lies that people believe now about marriage, and so it is put on the back burner. So we have changed the way we think about marriage because of the many voices that are speaking, and people are getting the notion that this is not safe. Mind you, we're also seeing the modeling of marriage not done right. So based on what I've seen, based on the statistics I've heard, I think it might not be a good thing for me. I don't feel safe going into that. Even hearing from a researcher like Barna that the level of divorce outside of the church and that of inside the church kind of look pretty close, even though they say among evangelicals, I think they're what? We're doing, well, much better. 60-something% of marriages are staying intact among evangelicals. People are truly
and the source of that information is very important as well, because there is an agenda by some organizations to suggest that marriages are not working anymore, so we don't need them. But when we check the independent sources, the ones that are more vested in reporting what things actually are, the rate of marriages staying together in Christian circles is actually higher than being reported. Actually higher.
And on that same point too, you have a lot of people claiming to be Christians. Right. And when you check, because Barna does a deeper research, because it will say, how often do you attend church?
Right.
Or how involved are you? And then you can see that the persons who are truly committed to the Lord do have better marriages, stay married longer. So nonetheless, the church is not oftentimes producing or presenting marriage in a way where it is wanted. It is desired. It is looked forward to. I know that when I used to see my sister and her girls getting ready for couples retreat, it was like, wow, I can't wait to be one of those women going off on couples retreat with my husband, because they made it look like it was everything, right?
Wow.
I don't know how much of that we're seeing now, but let's change it. God, it's my passion. It something roars in me to change that and let people know that marriage is beautiful. Forget all the stuff that you've been hearing. It is good. And marriage is especially good when two persons are submitted to the Lord. But getting back on the social side of things, so we are being impacted by what we're hearing, what we're seeing around us. And so we're not valuing marriage as much as we once
Right.
used.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because it is just recently that I was in a conversation, and what the gentleman said was, I don't even know if I want to get married again, because the examples of marriages that I'm seeing out there is just not attractive. And so many marriages are ending up in divorce. And he spoke about the so-called high divorce rate in the church. And, my response was, well, if you choose to remain single, you are not sinning. If you do that, you can still glorify the Lord and have a purposeful life with that decision. However, several marriages are thriving and doing well. And therefore, as long as you are submitted and you seek a wife who loves the Lord, a marriage should be able to work between any two practicing Christians.
Okay. Tashi, on that, here's one of the things that we're probably not sizing up as Christians. Marriage is the gate through which godly offspring come. God said in Malachi 2, what is it that the Lord desires? The Lord desires godly offspring. When marriages aren't happening in the church, where are they coming from? Where is the next generation of Christians coming from? Bearing in mind also that we have scaled way back on evangelism, right? And we know that it is most effective when we reach out to someone and tell them about the Lord one-on-one. So if we're not doing evangelism at a rate like we used to, and we're not having children, where are we lining up to be? It bothers me. It bothers me greatly. I'm so trying to hold on my passion for this before I start back. But it troubles me that we are kind of just chilled in the church. And we're not realizing that there's a great number of single women who have been waiting 30, 40, 50, mashing, going along, and there is no one who is coming as a suitable mate. It should bother us. It should be what occupies our prayer meetings, because we're not just talking about now, we're talking about generations. Anyhow, I'm going to hope. Here I am reining my own self in, right? But on a social level, yeah, those are some of the things I would touch on a social level. There's a lot more.
Let me ask a question. I want to ask you a question. Do you think that maybe there is a little, maybe it's implicit, it's not very explicit, that in some churches, the leaders might not want some of these women to get married, especially the ones who are highly involved in church. It's almost like if these women who are making the ministry happen, if they find a husband not inside of this church and they have to go where their husband is, that will mash up my ministry thing. So I know, what do you think?
I can't even believe you said it.
I honestly
can't even believe you said it. But
no, I'm going to be very. I have more to say, but I honestly wonder about that sometimes, because it's very rare. There are very few pastors that I have encountered who are talking about and praying about and just look like they have the passion for marriages to take place. They're just kind of, maybe it's just the Lord's will, for you to remain single, and everybody is single, and we're all gonna be single. Just dedicate yourself to the work of the Lord.
Wow. I would like to say to you that this is not so. I would like to, but a couple of experiences my husband and I had in recent years had us recalibrating route, because we went and we spoke about marriage and we encouraged our singles. And as soon as we were done, the pastor took the mic and said, okay. And he just kind of brought everything back to, it's good to be single. It's good. Paul said this, and this is and I'm like, almost like, let me fix back the table the way it really was, because they just came in here and messed it up. And I was like, why wouldn't he want his singles to be married? Why wouldn't he want his singles to be married? Come on, you're on your second marriage here now. Why are you not? Because it's one thing to have a Paul call. If you have a Paul call, the Lord bless you. Stay in your lane, run your course, do your thing. However, if you burn, if you have sexual urges, if you are struggling, it is not that you have a Paul call. God is not wicked. God will give you the grace for what he has called you to. So some people are staying single, but they're mingling, right? So you want that in your church? I don't see how. Wow. I don't see how, right? But I was on another platform again, and it was so advocated. I'm like, when did single become more honorable than being married? What is happening? What is happening? Tashi, oh my goodness. So there is something going on. There is something going on. And I think it is because another research, I think it was through Barna. I'm not sure if it was Barna, but it said that most of the work, of course, is done by, in the church, is done by single people. Most of the work.
Of course, because if you're single, you technically have more time to dedicate to that, and you should occupy your time to avoid certain temptations and stuff like that. But my challenge with the conversation is, let us strike a balance, right? So I heard you say, when did singleness become more honorable than being married? And I'm thinking, it's not that one is more honorable than the other. They're equally honorable as long as you understand that this is what God has called you to, and you are living according to how the Spirit is leading your life. But the balance is missing from the conversation. And I think that in an effort to make people feel comfortable with being single and not finding anybody, rather than say, okay, let's see if we can create some platforms where we allow people to, let's have some fellowship nights with some other churches where some nice single men and women are, and let's mix, let's something, rather than, let's have some seminars, let's do a weekend every year, and we get 5-6 churches coming together with people who can just meet each other or something, whatever it is. But there is absolutely no effort. That's just not important. It's not, the average church that I've seen doesn't even have a thriving singles ministry.
Well, some
it's
people
either non-existent or it cannot work.
Right. Some churches do not believe in a singles ministry.
No.
I don't understand the logics, but I think they are more for young adults ministry. Nothing wrong with that, but I really couldn't tell you what's behind that.
Right. And I am for singles ministry, but with a different name, because I have seen where people, Christians, single Christians, usually the women, because the men are neither here nor there, the quality of men who gravitate to the singles ministry are men who, they probably don't care about what people want to say or anything like that. So they just kind of work with it. But a man who probably unmarried, but is dating somebody, is not going to go to a singles ministry meeting because in his mind, he has somebody kind of thing, unless they're going there together. But one of the things I have noticed over the years is that some people shy away from this singles ministry concept because they say it's like it's putting a label on you forever. So I don't want to be in any singles ministry. It's like it's a stamp. It's like you're done, right?
My goodness, what a way to think, though.
Exactly. That's that. I've heard people think like that. So there are so many things going on in terms of people's mindset. And there are so many things people are experiencing personal that they're not willing to talk about. They don't have a platform to talk about it without feeling like they're being judged or anything like that. And so there are so many issues that need to be put out there, dealt with, so we can move on. But it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And on that, I'd like to say as well that even within our church, because I'm touching the moral side now.
Right.
The moral compass has really drifted. When you have a church full of single people, you can often have the sampling that is happening. And you have some persons who don't have a problem having sex while they wait with each other, right? So you have this sampling going on because it is no longer a big deal. Your purity, your commitment to God, your being so totally sold out to God, it's not a big deal. As I don't know, I come across people who say, well, you know, he was messing with me and found out that he was with so-and-so, But what single women often do is to keep the man secret. So he says, don't tell anybody that we're in a relationship. Why? Are we not doing something honorable? Why shouldn't I tell? Oh, because you want to talk to the other person in the choir and the usher right there and this person right there, and everybody's keeping it secret, right? As opposed to us having an environment where it's okay to see two people walk hand in hand and they're courting. It's okay. It's fine to see a relationship develop and the whole church celebrate when they hear that there's an announcement of marriage, right? It's okay to have such a thing happen, and we're not really there. So as the moral compass drops in the church, I have single friends who tell me that they can hardly date anyone because they're asking, you know, I believe in God, I serve the Lord, I this, I that, but I require that we're gonna have sex. The Lord understands.
Wow.
The Lord understands. What does the Lord understand, bro? What does he understand? You know, so these things are affecting when you are being serviced. That thing that the Lord put in you, that drive that the Lord put in you, it is for you to gravitate towards somebody, to be joined together, to be unionized, like a better word, right? So that you in marriage. So the sex drive is not just there to drive you, it is to drive you toward marriage. God made your body to come to that place, and it is to be fulfilled in marriage. So if it is fulfilled, you're getting what you want, you're getting your fix, whether it's on whatever you're reaching out to online or otherwise. And women, oftentimes, they're not desirous of doing that. And even, well, some are, let's just face it, some women do make it bad for others. So as it drops, you're having men fulfilled anyhow. So why rush into marriage? Why consider it a thing to do? You know, so we do have to consider our morals. Where are they? How convicted are you to live for an audience of one, to serve the Lord? That it doesn't matter if no one knows. God knows. I am for God. Everything I do, and this is Christianity 101. that you decide I'm going to follow him. And it doesn't matter. Do I mess up sometimes? Yes, but I'm never going to say I'm going to plan to mess up. That is, it's just another level. It's just another level of lack.
It's just sin, yeah.
In our moral standards, right? So I want to touch another area.
Go ahead.
When I think about women who were in youth ministry, when I was in youth ministry, just the other day, hallelujah. And I see them not get married. I see a lot of guys. I saw a lot of guys who approached them, and they would never date those guys. If you see those guys now, you say, but they're wonderful men. And they were wonderful men. However, there is a level of just irrational expectations. The expectations of a perfect man is one of the reasons why single women are not married. You're looking for a made man, and you don't understand that you're a part of the making of the man.
Okay.
What you're praying for, you're a part of the answer. That's why you're a helpmeet and Ezra cannot go. You are a part of the answer. You say, I like him, but and I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those women. When I saw my husband coming, I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I remember praying, and the Lord said, oh, you're going to meet your husband when you go to Jamaica. And I'm like, ooh, girl, the Lord told me that I'm going to meet my husband. And I'm all excited. I came to Jamaica. I'm leaving Jamaica. No husband. I don't meet anybody. And I'm like, I guess I missed the Lord. And I felt, like, God, I didn't ask you. Why you just up and, oh, all right, I missed you. It was like 5 years later that I'm in dialogue with my husband. And he said, yeah, I remember when we all went down to Mandeville and, I was up there giving my testimony. I remember it like it was yesterday, and he was describing, I'm like, you're the guy. And he's like, yeah. And, because I remember the guy giving his testimony with his bass guitar. And I remember walking to the back of the auditorium and being face to face with him. And I'm like, no to the no. Oh God, you wouldn't try me like that. Like, I rebuke you, Satan. No, because he was I don't even know what to call it, because you just imagine this man is coming from touring wherever in the world, a musician, just rasta belt, short jeans, just looking not like how I would imagine, right? I was just like, no.
Okay. He wasn't made yet.
He was not made. And so one of the things that the Lord had me to do was to consistently pray for my husband. From I was 21, I started doing that. And he would lead me. And I knew that when I was praying for him, he was not yet saved. I knew that. In prayer, I knew that. And so I started praying certain things into him, like praying for him to be teachable, praying that God would give him opportunity for advancement on the job in whatever he's studying, whatever he's supposed to do, and just praying. And, having met my husband, I would say to him often, I formed you in prayer, and he'd be like, yeah, whatever. But honestly, it was out of prayer. I saw in him the things I prayed for. Of course, God had to chop my list because I had some expectations there that they were just fluffy.
Yeah.
Foolishness. Foolishness. One bag of foolishness. And one of the things that could have had me miss my husband is just the way he dressed.
Okay.
It sounds simple, but a lot of the times, just like my husband was told by another young lady, you could be so much, but you're not. And he was like, wow, okay, let me walk wide of this one. And so oftentimes we're looking for the man that's like pastor. Pastor knows the word. I don't want a man who is not as knowledgeable in the word as I am or above me, right? So I am going to wait for that man. He's not as, he's not as developed as I am. Secondly, he's not making as much money as I am. Now, Tashi, we're gonna, this is a serious thing. Can I tell you that the landscape for dating has changed? We cannot play with the same tools. We cannot play the same way we used to play. That's just the harsh reality of where we are.
Shed some more light on that. How has the landscape of dating changed, and what are the some of the tools?
Just like I was saying, when I was single and I looked around the church, I could pick, choose, and refuse. There were so many different men. They were going somewhere. They were doing something. They were good candidates. There were a lot of them, and they were very involved. However, the enemy has ramped it up, and we are still using the same dosage that we once used. We have to up it. When I say that, I'm talking about the fact that we are looking and we're saying, wait, the men are not economically compatible to me. Why? Because they're not in school with you. When you look around that classroom at your tertiary level of education, how many of the people you see there were men?
Very few.
Right? So then you want a man who's making more money than you. The pool.
Very small.
The pool, it's very small. So what does that leave? Where are the men in the church? We would say, okay, so we should have, we want them to be spiritual giants, a man who can pray for me, a man who can do this. Okay, he just got saved though. Or he ain't even saved yet. So we need to assume a different posture. We must begin to pray for men. Why? Are they at more of a disadvantage than women? Yes, I would dare say yes. Because the devil is not stupid. He's going for the head. He's going for the head. And when he assaults the head, he understands that you are still with those standards, which were good. However, you are going to have to go back to God and say, God, show me who you intended for me to dominate with and what kind of prayers I need to pray for this man. Because we have to shift our game. We have to change the way that we're playing. We have to go back to the drawing board, because a lot of men are like my husband. He was out there touring all over the place. And the Lord said, pray for him. Pray for him. How many men are out there who need to be prayed into a place of sobriety, a place of knowing God, of seeking God? And I tell you what I found very attractive about my husband, word, his knowledge of the word. Mind you, this man got saved way later than I did. He did not have the background that I did, but he ate word. He came into the kingdom and he just ate word. He focused on the word. He grew in the word. This can be done, but it won't be done because you just know that the Lord wants you married, so the Lord's going to just provide. You are going to be a part of your prayer, your answered prayer. You have to pray, women. You have to pray, because the resistance is greater. The resistance for them to earn.
Right.
You know, mature.
This point here you are making about praying for the men, and what I'm getting from you is being consistent and fervent in these prayers, allowing
Thanks for tuning in. Do join us next week, same time and on this platform, when you can talk with Tashi. Until next time, do have a safe, blessed and productive week.